combinatorial
A
group
set of
theory.
polynomials
Geometric
with
group
variables
theory
x and y
focuses
with
on the
a real
relationships
code
between
is
groups
denoted
and geometric
r
or
bracket
topological
x, y.
structures, often studying
This is more than
groups
just
through their actions on
It's
various
closed under
spaces.
addition. If you add two polynomials with real
It
coefficients,
aims to
you
develop
get a polynomial
insights
with
that
real
benefit both the study of
It's also
geometry or
closed under
topology
multiplication.
and group theory itself.
An algebraic object
Combinatorial
that
group
behaves
theory,
this
though,
way is called
traditionally
a ring.
concerned with the study of groups
Now, look at the
presented
set
by
R,
generators
where all
in
polynomial
relations,
functions
studies
defined
how
on the
groups
unit
are
circle.
built and their
We think of
properties
two
deduced from
polynomials
these
as
properties.
defining the same function. If they agree on all
It
points
first
x,
appeared in
y
the study
on
of
the unit
discrete
circle,
groups of
then
isometries
they are
and the
equal as
fundamental group
members of
concept.
R. We can add
Group
and
theory
multiply
has some
functions.
strong connections with representation theory, by the way. Anyway,
Some
Fourier
terminology.
analysis.
This ring R is called the coordinate ring of the circle.
Fourier analysis mostly focuses on how functions or signals can be expressed as
As
sums
we see,
or integrals of basic
these
oscillatory
functions can be
functions,
decoded and use algebraic properties of
like
coordinates.
sine and cosine waves, or
smaller
more
size.
generally
For
speaking,
those
complex
who don't know
exponentials.
you'll realize that what we're doing here is working
Basically, it's all about manipulating functions through their frequency combinations. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like it and to subscribe to the channel.
Now, if
Real
those words
analysis
don't
and
make
complex
sense, don't
analysis.
worry. You won't need it for the rest of the video.
Real analysis studies real numbers and their
times
functions.
y plus
It
x
goes into
equals
limits, continuity,
versus
integration,
disparity.
differentiation,
X
and
plus y
series
squared
to understand the foundations of
The
calculus.
first curve is a union of two curves, and the second one
Complex
is
analysis, though,
say
extends
that
these
this
ideas
curve
to
is
functions of
reducible.
complex numbers.
and this curve
It studies
is
properties
irreducible.
like analyticity, contour integration,
Let R be the ring
residues,
of
and
functions
conformal
of the
mappings.
first curve, and let S be the ring of functions of the second curve. The algebra of these two rings,
Dynamics.
as we will see, is quite different. The first ring R
Dynamics
is
or
kind of
dynamics.
被告怎么了？
Systems is the study of how systems evolve over time. This includes both discrete and
It's not
continuous
identically
systems.
zero.
Discrete dynamical
example,
systems
f of
operate
1,
in
1
jumps
equals
over
2,
distinct
and is
and
equivalent
separate
to
points in time,
Similarly,
such as the
the
steps
function
in a
g of x
numerical
y equals
quantity.
y minus x
Continuous
is
dynamical
0.
systems deal with changes occurring
However,
over
the
continuous
product
time,
is 0 on
which
all points
looks
of
like
the curve.
natural
This
processes.
type of
吴
behavior
董现在
might
刚
look
他的国民党主席，他刚领他的国民党，他刚领他的国民党，现在
but
看
both
一
of
下
the。factors are non-zero. This never happens in
Partial
linear
differential
algebra.
equations.
It turns out, and this is not immediately obvious, that if the
Partial
product of
differential
polynomials is
equations,
0 on the ground,
distinguish
then at least
themselves
one
by
of
the
the two
presence
factors
of
must
partial
be 0 on
derivatives.
the ground.
They indicate the rate of change
This
of
algebraic
functions
phenomenon is
relative to
detected,
multiple
but the
independent
first curve
variables.
has two pieces. It is
This
reducible.
class includes a
While the
really
second
wide
curve has
spectrum of
one
equations,
piece.
each of
It's
which
irreducible.
models completely
The
different
geometry
scenarios.
of whether the curve
For
is
example, the
irreducible
heat
or not
equation
is
models
appearing
the
in the
distribution of
algebra.
flow of heat in a medium
Here's a more
over time,
complex example. The curve y squared equals x squared
while the
times
wave
x
equation describes the propagation of
intersects.
forces, like sound
It
or
has
light
no
waves through space.
origin. Can we detect this using algebra? First, let's bring
Functional
all the
analysis.
terms to one side. Using the formula for a
Functional
difference of
analysis
squares,
studies
let's write
infinite
this.
dimensional vector spaces,
As before,
like Banach and
notice
Hilbert
that these two
spaces,
functions
and linear
are both
operators
non-zero
acting on them.
But the product of these
It
two
combines
functions
techniques
is
to
0.
investigate convergence, continuity,
If you
spectral
zoom in to the
properties,
origin,
and
this
duality.
looks like
These
two lines
insights
that
are
are
applied to
crossing.
more specific areas like
Near the
quantum
origin,
mechanics.
this curve looks reducible. Now, algebraically, near the origin, the square root
Enumerative
of
and
x plus
algebraic
y is
combinatorics.
approximately equal to 1.
Enumerative combinatorics is one of the oldest branches of math, focusing on the
And the bottom
straightforward
equation,
task of
remember,
counting
is precisely
configurations
the
or
equation of the
structures.
two lines crossing each other from before.
It's
But there's
done
a
by
problem.
establishing
Up until
bijective
now,
correspondences
we've only been looking at
that
polynomial
simplify this
functions.
counting
But the
process.
square root of x plus 1 isn't a polynomial.
Algebraic
Ring does the
combinatorics,
square
which
root
is
of x
a
plus 1
more
ring.
modern development,
Well, the
uses
secret
algebraic
is to use a tool
structures
for
like
calculus.
groups and rings to solve
We can write the
combinatorial
Taylor
problems,
series of the square root of x plus 1.
extremal and probabilistic combinatorics.
Previously, we looked at the polynomial
The
series
foundational technique
of x
here,
plus 1.
the probabilistic
Now, we're going
method,
to look
involves
at a
showing
power
the
series.
existence of a combinatorial
double
structure
bracket.
that fulfills certain
This is
properties
defined as a
by
set of
showing the
power
probability
series
of randomly selecting
with
a structure like that is non-zero.
做破防、做骚，然后不做什么东西，
power
给我看啊，干嘛这样子？
r double bracket x y.
Numerical
Or more
analysis.
这是
precisely,
常文嘛？说一下你
Numerical analysis deals with the developing and implementation of numerical methods to solve mathematical problems.
which are individually non-zero.
It deals with very important concepts such as error analysis,
秋米就
stability,
算这
and
题打得
convergence.
好，也不能练习来参
are very, very important because they help us to evaluate the effectiveness of numerical algorithms.
Geometry prediction that we've
动
been
力
talking
源
about.
哦，这个
Well, the benefit of this is that algebra helps us nail down
Set
geometric
theory.
intuition into rigorous math.
The study within
why
this
if you
field
look at most
focuses
textbooks
on
on
understanding
algebra,
how sets operate,
most proofs
interact,
use ring
and can be
theory.
characterized in terms of their size and
If I
structure.
give you a
This
shape,
includes the
part
study of
the
both
line
finite and infinite sets,
what are
with
the
special attention given to infinite sets. It led us to the development of concepts like cardinality, which measures the size or number of elements
So
in a
far, we've seen two geometric properties of curves that are
set.
captured by
Plus, set theory explores the properties and the implications
对啊，
of different axiomatic systems, such as the Zermelo-Franker axioms. These axioms are foundational for all mathematics, and they define the rules by which sets can be constructed and manipulated
properties
and include the axiom of
But
choice.
can we reverse this procedure?
It has implications
What
in
if you
many
take
fields of mathematics.
the ring of integers? Is there a geometric
那这
object
不
that
讨论侯友
corresponds
谊
to
吗？
it? Can we
Model
use Z
theory.
as
还是
the
侯
ring
友
of
谊因为
functions
总统
that
大选
represent
Logic and
所以他这
model
个要
theory
单纯
use formal
学
language
学
in order to
他
define and
想学
study
他把
mathematics.
当本写出来
It allows us to understand how
This
these
is
structures
an
follow
example.
我
rules
那
and
侯友谊，那
actions.
侯友谊呢？那侯友谊
The study
侯友谊因为
emphasizes
侯友谊因为蓝白河那一次，所以现在那
the
个
relationship between synthetic approaches
没有，因为原本是说侯友谊
This is a
骗
very
大
这样的话
language
要
and it won't
被
侯友谊没有要，
and semantic
这
use.
有那
but it can't
他没有
focus
政
on
治魅力，
space.
因为他原本是说骗大，不
Aspect
是
Z
吗？
is drawn as a line, and each
Model
point
theory addresses
具
fundamental
体是因为
results such
那一
as
次
the completeness and
是因为上一次总
incompleteness
统选举的
theorems.
关系吗？
The completeness
Well, how do you
theorem
view
tells us
integers
that if a
functions
statement
on
is
the
true in all models of the theory, then it can be proven
and it asks
within
you
that
to
theory.
evaluate it at a point on the
个浅
space.
天才。
The
那为什么上一次
incompleteness
我们
theorem
两个
demonstrates that no
remainder of
consistent
还是
set
那个
of
是大
actions
数据
can prove all
So the
truths
function
about
10
natural
returns the
numbers.
value 0 at 2. It returns the value 1 at 3.
啊，不是，我好奇问一下，他这些什么？他这个 ID 叫什么？柯文哲、力量人、陈之汉，然后还有这个什么蒋中山，这不是还是才聊这个？
Stochastic
一定要
process.
我讲这个话题才跳出来吗？
这样子
直接打赢我们不要两个人。
The branch examines the
这样
mathematical
一段
models
that
that
it turns out
describe
to
the
be
evolution of
incredibly
systems influenced by random variables
Several
over
key
time.
results in modern number theory.
This field is super
Heavy
important
use
in
of
understanding
algebraic
phenomena
geometry
where
and
outcomes
notion.
are inherently uncertain
proof of
and can
formalized
evolve in
uses
complex,
very
non-deterministic
不好，你的本
ways.
质不是啊？我是记得上次周立伦具体不是因为那一次那个反正有执政8年之后那一次那个什么没有人要出来选，因为政党轮替跟这个
This
可
field
打，
mostly
因为国
uses
民党最后
probabilistic
那个
methods
朱
to
立伦出来
model
选，
and
朱立伦
analyze
输了之后，
objects
党
that
主席变
involve
成吴敦义的那个派系
randomness.
壮大，然后吴敦义在不是韩
It
国
focuses
是
on
这样子吗？
positions
所以朱
and
立伦
change
现在又
the
所以
curve
花了一段时间又
of
重
the
整他的这个态势，啊，不然的话朱立伦不是照理来讲他应该是到现在，按照看出来讲他那一年，原本是洪秀柱要选嘛，对不对？因为他
high
是国民
dimension
党大
in
佬对
geometry
派
and
系
its。probabilistic
那
analog.
那上次讲过了不是吗？你不是那一年
The
就是
field studies the properties and behaviors of geometric objects in space
换
of
组
high
事件没有了，我
dimensions,
那个换组的
where
时候是
objects that
国民党
appear
没有人要选，
different
因为
in
那个时候
four
主要
dimensions
拿一个
can
执
show
政8
similar
年，然后不管是
probabilistic
这个
properties.
民调调查还是怎么样，民意调查还是这个
If
民
you'd like
调
to
官
learn
司啊，
They
大家都知
introduced
道
the
这个
isoperimetric principle, which in
就
high
算
dimensions
就算那个
creates
没有人提，
interesting
但是国会
connections
也
with
是
probabilistic
应该是
matches.
民进党在
The
投
way
票，
to
那
think
个
of
时候
this
是这样。
is that it doesn't assume any knowledge.
Honestly,
那个时
this
候
list
后来
could
就
be
变成那个时候没有
it
人
is
想接这个牌子，
impossible
那
to
只有朱立伦
actually
说，哎，
map
大家
all
要听大家
mathematics, but as a general
没
layout,
办
it's
法，因为
pretty
大家都知道你是要
comprehensive. Notice that we focused mostly on pure mathematics here. We did not talk about its
他
application,
刚做完，
physics,
刚做完
computer
2年
science,
那个
economics,
那个什么，
we're sure that
不想选，然后后来才发
there
现
is
什么
way
妈
more that
妈
can be
祖国
added.
阿妈，
Hopefully, this gives you a pretty good idea of what kinds of
这
foundational
样吗？
branches there are. Let us know in the comments what other fields could be included.
This video was based on the Princeton Companion for Mathematics. Link in the description. If you like this video, I'm sure you're going to love this one. See you guys there.
Mathematics is built on very important areas like geometry, calculus, algebra, real analysis, and so on. But these fields can all be broken down into specialized branches of mathematics, which can be in one specific field or shared by many. Let's go through every one of them. Algebraic number theory. This branch explores the properties and relationships of complex numbers that satisfy polynomial polynomial equations with integer coefficients.
我们这个年代还有在分省省外省，只有我那个我爸那个年代，还有那个我阿公那个年代有在分那个
And
分那个
solutions
省
to
外省，比较
polynomial
少。
equations like this one, where the
眷
coefficients
村
are
长大的
integer.
眷村长大的本省的家。
Algebraic number theory studies many kinds of
这个年代很少
structures
在
and
分的，
systems
这个年代
that can be
有在
derived
分
from
的。我
these
爸那个年代有
numbers,
这个在分的，
number
我爸那个还有
fields, and ring properties.
我爸跟我阿公那个年代有
The theory also goes into ideals, units, and the unique factorization of ideals in rings of algebraic
他靠背啊，你不会去找一些那个
Analytic
有
number
在聊天的老师，干嘛找我？发疯了。
Analytic number theory mostly focuses on approximations rather than exact solutions.
疯的一生
It
去。
involves the deep analysis of number distributions,
Consider the unit circle.
specifically primes.
哎，讲政治讲那
This
么好，
branch
玩
of
乐色
number
游戏
theory
干
does
什么？
not
你就是
exact
这
exact
个老妈
formulas for most of its quantities,
Study functions on
unless they are
绕解的老
artificially
妈，看
constructed.
看
Consider a function
把你的另外一个，干另外之前有另外一个人就是抽老妈的。
This branch of number theory focuses on developing algorithms
那
to
你们
solve
红色
numerical
的啊？不是
problems
不是，
related
要
to
有另外一个人
integers
的名
and
字就是红
other
色的，
number
不是，
quadratic
就另外一个人嘛。靠腰，我对不
It
起，我在错
involves
了，
the
我认错
creation and
了。
application of computational methods to perform calculations on large numbers, such as factoring
A slightly more
integers,
interesting
finding
example
primes,
is the
and
function that
computing
sends the pair
discrete
x, y
logarithms.
to the real number x plus 2y. This function would map
Abstract
this
algebra.
to 3 over root 2.
Abstract
would map this
algebra
point
examines
to
the
-1
properties and
over root 2.
structures of algebraic systems
let's
like
do
groups,
something
rings, and
Consider
does
the
so
function
through
g
concepts like homomorphisms,
严厉市长，哎，
isomorphisms,
乱讲
and
话，发
ideals.
疯啦！
1.
所以我们那时候有那个选题情节啊，
Points x,
那
y
个
on
时候
the
就会有
unit
分那个外省的跟那个
Category
本省
theory
啊，
the same
对不对？
as functions on
那
the
个时候是
unit.
以
The
前
main
的
idea in
爸
category
跟
theory
我阿
is
公
to
眷
focus
村
on
长大，
relationships between
眷村
objects
长大
rather than the
眷村长大
objects
但
themselves.
那个吴董还有说他眷村
A
长大，他是
category
他
consists
是
of
那
objects and
有
morphisms
分嘛？他们那个年代有分，我们现在没分嘛，
arrows
对
or
不对？
maps
function
between
f of
those
x, y
objects.
from earlier.
Morphisms
same
can
can
be
be true
thought
for
他们
of
会在
as
他们会在意
processes
吗？
or
他们会在意啊，因为他
transformations
他们
from
小时
one
候被外
object
省人
to
欺负啊，他
another.
们会在意啊。
And they satisfy properties like associativity and the existence of identity
Let's
morphisms.
phrase this in a more sophisticated way. The set of
你爸认
polynomials
识吴
compared
董，
to
靠背，你也不认，你也不看一下台湾有几个眷村，他妈同一个眷村吗？因为吴董是不是戏子那个眷
Studies
村？
properties
那如
and
果是戏那个眷村，
relationships
可能还
of
真的认识。
geometric
如果他认
structures
识
that
的话，
can
我
be
也不可能从小到大没看过他。
described algebraically
他如果真的
through
认识，我怎么可能从小到大
polynomial
没看过
equations.
他？发疯了。
This field combines abstract algebraic concepts such as rings and fields with geometric
objects.
equations.
塞巴狗狗哎！
called a ring.
没有，我爸都说他们那个小时
Linear
候都是
algebra.
做很多事啊，还会去帮人家剪，然后那
This
个
branch
赚钱，
studies
然后那个
vector spaces and linear mappings
The same
between them.
function. If they agree on
It
all
focuses
points
on
x,
understanding
y,
systems of linear equations,
then they are
matrix operations, determinants, eigenvalues, and eigenvectors.
Therefore,
Using these, linear algebra shows the structure of spaces and ring transformations that preserve their linear properties.
你要说破吗？
we view it as an algebraic manifestation of the
对
circle.
不对？有些话你放在心里面就
As we will see, the
Arithmetic
geometric
geometry.
properties of the circle are encoded in the
The
algebraic
subject
properties
mostly
coordinates.
deals with Diophantine problems,
A small aside.
which are
Hey,
equations
Lao,
for
Lao,
those
Lao,
integer or
You'll
rational
realize what
solutions,
we're doing here
and
is working
explores how
with
these can be understood through geometric principles.
modulo the ideal generated by x squared plus y
Arithmetic
squared.
geometry makes use of
Now,
advanced
those words are
algebraic
mentioned
concepts, such as schemes.
Look at this curve. Y minus
Algebraic
x
topology.
times y plus x equals 0.
It
versus
studies
the graph
spaces
没有那种
through
事情。
algebraic
我阿妈
structures
小时候是
known as
受这个教
topological
育史
invariants,
是
such
教育
as
的没有错啊。
homotopy
他
and
会讲
homology
啊，他以前
groups.
有教我讲日文。
The goal
say
is
that
to
this
assign algebraic structures such as groups, rings, and vector spaces to topological spaces.
R be the ring of functions.
This helps to classify and distinguish these spaces based on their topological
The
properties.
algebra of these two
啊，我阿妈教的啊，我阿妈讲的书，那是我阿
The
妈的
first
问题
string
啊。
R is kind of weird.
Differential
我没
topology,
得到哦
f of x
哦
a
哦，恭
field
喜
that focuses on studying properties of
没这个东
geometric
西要怎么念
structures？that are
帮我开
preserved
个直
under
播
smooth
哦
transformations,
哦弥陀
specifically
佛，
within the context of
没有
manifolds.
吗？
The function g of x
阿
y
弥陀佛，
The essence of differential topology involves examining the local properties of manifolds by using tools of calculus.
This type of behavior
By
might feel
ensuring that the
strange.
transition
The product of
functions
two
between
things is
local
zero.
coordinate
果然是
parts
黑
are
道
both
世
factors
家
are non-zero.
色彩
infinitely
浓厚，
differentiable.
This never happens
Differential
in
topology allows for
It
the
turns out,
comprehensive
and this is not
application
really
of
obvious,
differential and
that if the
integral
product of two
calculus
什么东
polynomials
西
is zero
哎
on
呦
the，
狗
graph,
凶猴子哦！
then at least one of the two factors
干猴子
must
很
be
凶，
zero
这狗
on the
上
graph.
应该他们配。
This algebraic phenomenon
Differential
is depicting
geometry.
that the first curve has two pieces.
Differential
It is
geometry is the study of
second
smooth
curve
shapes and
has
structures.
It's
It uses the tools of calculus
geometry
and linear
of whether the
algebra
curve
to
is
explore
irreducible or not
properties of
is
curves,
appearing in the
surfaces,
algebra.
and higher dimensional
，Here's
manifolds.
有啦，我阿妈没有
Key
省钱
topics
情
curve
节，
y
我
squared
阿公
equals
我阿公
geodesics
我阿公
and
还有省
connections
情节，我阿公
with
是
stronger
我阿
links
公
to
做
topology,
房子
analysis,
has
and
a known.
even theoretical physics.
Can we detect this using algebra? Let's bring all the terms
哎，就
Model
那条狗好像被围攻了
using
啦
the。formula for a difference of squares.
Modelized spaces allow for the geometric classification of objects like curves, surfaces, and more abstract structures by treating them as points in a geometric space.
If you zoom into the origin, this looks like
The
two
approach of
lines
modelized
that are
spaces simplifies our understandings of these objects and makes their manipulation much easier. For example, modelized spaces of
Near the
curves
origin,
help in
square root of
严厉斥责奇怪言论，不要再乱说话了，小宝贝。
vary and interact under continuous deformations.
And the bottom equation, if you remember, was precisely the equation of the two lines
推
crossing
荐
each
我
other.
看这个。
Representation theory.
But there's a problem. Up until now,
The main idea in representation theory is to associate each element of a group with a matrix,
会这样。
such that the group's operations corresponds to matrix multiplication.
is to use
This lets complex group structures
You can write the
to be
Taylor
studied
series of the
using
square
linear
root of
algebra
x
techniques.
as follows. Previously, we looked at the
A really
polynomial
important part of representation theory involves the
Now,
study of
we're
how
going to
these
look at
matrices
powers
act on vector spaces.
bar
This
double
reveals
bracket
quite a bit about the group structure
This is
through the
defined as a
properties
set
of these
all formal
actions,
power
like
series
whether
in
they
x,
preserve the vector
with
space
power
structure.
coefficients. We will think of the function the square root of 1 as belonging to the power
Geometric and combinatorial
series
group
double
theory.
bracket x squared. Or more precisely,
This branch is split into two main subfields, geometric group theory and
so
combinatorial
what
group
we've
theory.
noticed is that there are
Geometric
formal
group
power
theory focuses on the relationships between groups and geometric or topological structures, often studying groups
This
through
depicts
their
the
actions on
if you
various
zoom into
spaces.
the origin, the curve has two lines that
It aims to develop insights that benefit
But who
both
cares
the study of
about
geometry or
algebra,
topology
geometry,
and group theory itself. Combinatorial group theory, though, traditionally concerned with the study of groups presented by generators and relations, studies how groups are built and their properties
我有看那
deduced
个
from，these
我有去看那个
properties.
下一局是跟那个谁啊，有其他人玩过。
Furthermore,
It first appeared in the study of discrete groups of isometries and the fundamental group
蛮多
math.
人有那个副题很多是说什么
Group theory has
实
some
体
strong
大，
connections
不然
with
怎么办？实体
representation.
再大一点要怎么
visualize
办？
something fancy.
实体要怎么过
Anyway,
我有看到有那个
Fourier
说尺
analysis.
度不够大，那尺度不能再大了，再大感觉过不了审。
Fourier analysis mostly focuses on how functions or signals can be expressed as sums or integrals of basic oscillatory functions,
过审
like
啊
sine and cosine waves, or more generally
Is that we
speaking,
can
complex
translate geometric
exponentials.
phenomena into algebraic
这个要审
properties.
查。
Basically, it's all about manipulating
But can you reverse
functions
it?
through their
这个有
frequency
审核的嘛？
components.
没有吗？
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like it and to subscribe to
During
the channel.
integrals. Is
Real
there a
analysis
geometric
and complex
object that
analysis.
corresponds to?
没有吗？
Can we use z?
没有。
Real analysis studies real numbers and their functions. It goes into limits,
turns out that
continuity,
there is a
integration,
geometric
differentiation,
and it is
and
called
series to understand the foundations of calculus.
This is an example of something called a scheme.
Complex
It is
analysis,
a
though,
geometric
extends these ideas to functions of complex numbers. It studies properties like analyticity,
And I won't
contour
rigorously
integration,
describe this video,
residues, and conformal
but I
mapping.
can draw a picture of spec z. Spec z is drawn as a line, and each point on this line
Dynamics.
corresponds to a prime number. And there is one
Dynamics or dynamical
corresponding to
systems
zero.
is the study of
Well,
how
how do you
systems
view
evolve
integers
over
as
time.
functions
This
on the
includes
space?
both discrete and
Well, if I give
continuous
you an
systems.
那样呢？
Discrete
这个嘛
dynamical
会的。
systems
That's
operate
what
in
I
jumps
evaluate
over
at a
distinct
point on the
and
space.
separate points
我帮
in
你先
time,
开啊。
such as the
Tell me
steps
the
in a
remainder of
numerical
10
computation.
after division by 2.
Continuous
So
dynamical
the function
systems deal
10
with
returns
changes
the value
occurring
0
over
at 2.
continuous time,
It returns the value
which
1
looks
at
like
3,
natural
the value 0
processes,
at 5.
你检讨对手。
motion and
3
the
at
gravitational
7,
那已经
forces.
发
and so
现
on.
啦，对不对？前面又没印
And
象
at this
过。
mysterious point 0, it returns itself.
Partial
This seems
differential
really bizarre.
equations.
Why on earth would we do this? It suffices to say
Partial
that it turns
differential
out to be
equations,
incredibly
or
这又是什么东西的？你到底
distinguish
又怎么了
themselves
啦
by？the presence
刚
of
就要靠
partial
这。
derivatives.
make heavy
They
use
indicate the
of
rate of
algebraic
change of
geometry and the
functions
notion
relative to
scheme.
multiple independent
The proof of
variables.
Fermat's last theorem uses some
This
very
class
non-trivial
includes
ring
a really
theorem that
wide
is
spectrum of
motivated by
equations,
geometric
each of which
considerations.
models
An
completely
important
different
ingredient
scenarios.
of the proof
For example,
required
the heat
showing that
equation
certain
models the
rings are,
distribution of
quote-unquote,
flow of heat
complete
in a medium
intersections.
over time.
这个
What
网
that is
是
besides the point, but it's an
Well,
While the
algebraic
wave
property
equation
that's
describes the
motivated by
propagation of
geometry.
waves, like sound or light waves
So
through
that's all
space.
for the math portion of this video. I'll end off
这
by
不是
listing
啦，
some
这是
resources
啦
that you can use
这是
to
那
learn
个
Functional
algebraic geometry
analysis.
in some more detail.
有鬼啊！
A really good starting point is the
Functional
book
analysis
A
studies
Guide to
infinite-dimensional
Algebraic
vector
Groups,
spaces,
written by Keith
like
King.
Banach and
不留
Hilbert,
在
It's written in a
是
really
and
elementary
linear
style
operators
that has
acting
lots
on
of
them.
really
拜托，不是
captivating
改一下哪一
diagrams
部好不好？
It combines techniques to investigate convergence, continuity, spectral properties, and duality. These insights are applied across different areas, like quantum
But by the
mechanics.
end, it actually gets to some pretty deep theorems in algebraic geometry. If you'd like to learn the subject in a bit more detail,
Enumerative
using
and
more ring theory
algebraic
and abstract
combinatorics.
algebra,
哪
the
里还
great
有
book
美
is
Enumerative
Ideals,
combinatorics is
Varieties,
one of
and
the
Algorithms.
oldest branches of
The
math,
great thing about this book
focusing
is that
on the
it doesn't
straightforward
assume
task
any
of
knowledge
counting
abstract
configurations
algebra and
or
teaches
structures.
everything from the ground up, pretty rigorously. If you want
It's
to learn
done
about
by
schemes
establishing
and spec,
bijective
a really good
correspondences
book
is
is
that
Algebraic
simplify this
Geometry.
counting
Algebraic
process.
Geometry by Qing Lu.
让小鬼抓
As
快
you
一
can
点。
see,
Algebraic
it is very
combinatorics, which is
terse,
a
and it is
more
a
modern
graphical
development,
novel.
uses
It
algebraic
has everything
structures
in it,
like
and it
groups
is
and
written
rings
very
to solve
这
combinatorial problems,
If this is your cup of tea, by all
extremal and
means.
probabilistic combinatorics.
That's all for now. Thanks for
The
taking the time to
foundational
learn some
technique
math.
here,
哦，那还没到
the
这
probabilistic method, involves showing the existence of a combinatorial structure that fulfills certain properties by showing the probability of randomly selecting a structure like that is non-zero.
不应该拉，不应该叫这个大哥出来。哎呀，老
Numerical
婆不见了，
analysis.
怎么办？
Numerical analysis deals with the development and implementation of numerical methods to solve mathematical problems.
那不就
意见电
用流程
对不对？
It deals with very
高
important
工数有
concepts
功
such as error analysis, stability, and convergence. These concepts are very, very important because they help us to evaluate the effectiveness of numerical algorithms.
These are all examples of algebraic
Set
curves.
theory.
They're curves that are cut out by polynomials.
The study within this field focuses on understanding
this
how
curve over
sets
here.
operate,
It's defined by
interact,
the
and
algebraic
can be
equation
characterized
y
in terms of
squared
their
equals
size
x
and structure.
minus x.
This includes the study of
Moving
both
everything to one
finite and
side,
infinite
we get
sets.
that y
With
squared
special
minus
attention
x
given
plus
to
x
infinite
equals
sets,
0.
it led us to the
Algebraic
development
geometry
of
begins with
concepts
the
like
studies of zeros
cardinality,
of
which
algebraic
measures the
equations.
size or number
But
of
at the same
elements in a
time,
set.
it has a
Plus,
reputation
set
of being
theory explored
incredibly abstract.
好想
the properties
But why?
and the implications
Because
of
algebraic
different
geometry is not
axiomatic
just about the
systems,
zeros of
such as the
algebraic equations.
Zermelo-Frankel
It's really about the
axioms.
bridge between
These
algebra
axioms are
and geometry.
foundational for all
This is best
mathematics,
explained in an
and
example.
they define the
Consider the
rules by
unit
which
circle.
sets can be
X squared plus
constructed
y
and
squared
manipulated,
equals 1.
and
One of the
include the
philosophies in
axiom
math
of
in general
choice.
is that to
It
understand
has
an object,
implications in
you should
many
study
fields
functions
of
on the
mathematics.
function. For example, consider a function that takes a point on the unit circle and returns just the y coordinate.
Model theory.
So it would map the point
为什么？
1 over root 2.
Logic and model
comma,
theory
1 over
use
square root
formal
2.
language in order to
2,
define and
1
study
over root 2.
mathematical structures.
If
It
map the
allows us
point
to understand
1 over
how
root
these
2
structures
Equal
follow
to
rules
minus
and
1.
发
axioms.
疯了。
The study
to minus
emphasized the
1 over 2.
relationship between
And so,
syntactic
A
approaches,
slightly more
which
interesting
are based
example
on the
is the
formal
function that
languages
sends a
and
pair
rules,
x comma y to the
and
real number
semantic
x
views,
equals 2y.
which focus on
This
meaning
function
and
would
truth
map this
within
point
models.
3 over root 2. It would map
Model
this point
theory
to
address
minus 1
fundamental
over root 2.
results such as the completeness
Now
and
let's do something we
incompleteness theorems.
Consider the function
The
Hao,
completeness
g of
theorem
晚上说什么？
tells
我
us
一定
that
说
if
到
a
说到，好不
statement
好
is？true
晚
in
上如
all
果
models
我
of
跟我讲，我
theory,
跟你说，
then it
我
always
is
不管
proven
晚上
within
要我
that
做什
theory.
么东西
Points，
我一定跟你说做到。不管
The
是要去哪里，怎么
incompleteness
样
theorem
F
demonstrates that a
are
no
actually
consistent set of axioms can prove all
G
truths
of
about
乱讲
real numbers.
1 over root 2 is 3 over the square root of 2. And g of this point is minus 1 over root 2. Notice that these are the same outputs produced by our function f of xy from earlier.
Stochastic processes.
The same will be true for these two functions. They are
The
the same
branch
as
examines the
units.
mathematical models
More
that
generally,
describe the
any
evolution of
function of this
systems
form
influenced by
will
random
be the same
variables
as
over
f
time.
of xy.
This
Let's
field
phrase
is
this in a
super
more
important in
sophisticated
understanding
way.
phenomena
The set
where
of
outcomes
polynomials
are
of variables
inherently
x and y
uncertain and
with
can evolve
real
in
values
complex
is
and
denoted
non-deterministic
r
ways.
bracket x comma y. This is more than just a set.
圈这个红字儿要
It's
怎么
closed
Probabilistic
under
models
addition.
of critical
If you add
phenomena.
不要这样子，
polynomials with real
不要这样
coefficients,
子，
you
不要
get
这
a
样子，
This
不要
field
这样子，
mostly
不要这样
uses
子，不要这样子，不要这
probabilistic
样子。
methods to model and
不要
analyze
不要，这时候
phenomena
馆
that
长他
involve
那个这一次
uncertainty
对，
and
跟
random.
各位讲一下这个事件呢，这
Specifically,
个
it
事件是
focuses
在
on
这
the
个
positions
最近啊，
and
有一个人不
chains
是
that
开
occur
车子
at
去撞馆长的
triangle
健身房吗？大约
We
是
think
在
of two
半年前的
polynomials
事
as
情啊
defining。the
那那个
same
人呢，后来
function
被查出来有这个
if they agree
枪
on
炮
all
弹药管
points
这个
x
钱
y，
他的家里面有收被搜出来
High
拉散弹枪啊，他这跟当初那个馆长领口枪击案的作案方式是一模一样
The
的。
field
所以
studies
馆
the
长非常
properties
非常
and
的心寒，
behaviors of
觉得可能这
geometric
个
objects
身
in
体这
spaces
个受
of
到
high
危害，
This
受
ring
到这个
R
where
is called the
objects that
coordinate
appear
ring.
different from lower dimensions can show
We view it
similar
as
本来
probabilistic
那个也是一
properties.
样，先去他健身房打卡运动
It，
然后
introduced
呢
the
之后再去这个对他进行纠纷，
which in
那之后
high
就是这样
dimensions
子。
has interesting
algebraic
connections with
properties.
probabilistic measures.
A small aside, for those who know some
Honestly,
math,
this
you
is
will
a bit
realize that
intuitive.
doing
It is
that is
impossible to
working.
actually map all
R
mathematics,
bracket
but as a
xy
general layout,
modulo the
it's pretty
ideal
comprehensive.
generated
Notice
x
that we
squared plus y
focused
squared minus y.
mostly on pure
Now,
mathematics.
if those words
We
don't
did
make
not
any
talk
sense,
about
don't
its
worry. You
applications,
won't need
like
it
in
for the
physics,
video.
computer science,
this
economics,
curve.
and so on.
Y minus
We're
x
sure that
times y
there is
plus
way
x
more
equals
that can be
0.
added, but
Versus
hopefully
this
this
parabola.
gives you a pretty
X
good
plus y
idea
squared
of what
equals
kind of
0.
foundational
The first curve
branches
is a
there are.
union of
Let
two
us know in the
curves.
comments
The
what other
second one
fields
is
should be included.
This
say
video
that
was
this
based on the
curve is
Princeton
reducible.
Companion to Mathematics. Link in the
And this
description.
curve is
If you
irreducible.
like this video, I'm sure you're going to love this
Let
one.
R be the ring of
See you guys there.
functions of the first curve, and let S be the ring of
Mathematics is built in very important areas like geometry, calculus, algebra, real analysis, and so on.
我去过
But
我
these
说高等
fields
馆啊
can all be broken down into specialized branches of mathematics,
It's
which can be in
mathematically
one
zero.
specific field
For example,
or shared by
f
many.
of 1, 1
Let's
is
go
equal to
through
2.
every
This
one
is
of
clearly
them.
non-zero. Similarly,
Algebraic number
the function
theory.
g of xy equals
This
y
branch
minus y
explores
is
the
not zero
properties and
algebraic.
relationships of complex
However,
numbers
the
that
product
satisfy
is
polynomial
zero on
equations
all
with
points of the
integer
curve.